The ancient Egyptian language remained a secret for about 1,400 years until the French scholar and officer Champollion arrived in Egypt with the French occupation in 1822. He uncovered its secrets by deciphering the hieroglyphs. However, the language of the people itself was not erased from the country during that period. Rather, it remained in another form, the Coptic language. Since Alexander the Great's conquest of Egypt, hieroglyphs were written in Greek letters, in addition to Egyptian signs, after adding 7 demotic letters, which had no equivalent in the Greek language. Since that time, the ancient Egyptian language has been called Coptic, meaning Egyptian. The writings used in the country were in 3 different forms until the late Roman era in Egypt. Hieroglyphic writing, that is, the traditional script of the country, followed by Greek, then Coptic. Hieroglyphic script disappeared in the late 4th century AD with the disappearance of paganism from the country, and it was no longer the people's script. As for the Greek language, its use was eliminated immediately after the Arab conquest. While Coptic script remained the language of the people in some areas of Upper Egypt, used in prayers, worship, and schools until the late 17th century. After that, it was restricted to purely religious prayers until the present day, and only a few people are proficient in it. From this, we see that the Coptic language, a dialect of Egyptian, has been preserved for us written in Greek letters. There is a grammar and a dictionary in Arabic and Greek. The Coptic language is preserved in the Karshar. In the mid-17th century, the Jesuit father understood the intricacies of the ancient Egyptian language written in Greek letters. He began conducting scientific research into this language. However, when he tried to trace the Coptic language back to the Egyptian language, he never succeeded. He wondered about the Egyptian language. Is it letters, sounds, or meanings? And how can it be read? However, we have only received from the ancients rare and obscure definitions of the Egyptian language, and the name itself, hieroglyphics, indicates ambiguity, as it means sacred writing, as Herodotus and Diodorus said. Clement of Alexandria, who lived in the late 2nd century AD, mentioned that he saw some people speaking the Egyptian language and writing it in hieroglyphics. Herodotus, and later Diodorus, told us that there were 2 types of writing in Egypt. One was sacred writing, known only to the priests, and the other was demotic, the language of the common people. However, the interpretation of these writings remained obscure until a soldier accidentally discovered that the French campaign, led by Napoleon to the Nile Valley, was not solely for military occupation, but also for scientific research on Egyptian civilization. Therefore, a group of scholars came with him, and luck helped them when, in August 1799, while excavating in the Rosetta Citadel, an artillery officer named Bouchard accidentally discovered a piece of basalt stone engraved with 3 different inscriptions, the third of which, the lowest in the stone, was written in Greek. The phrase writing is a royal decree issued by Ptolemy V in 196 BC. The Greek text states that it is the same text written in the other 2 scripts, hieroglyphs, the sacred script, and demotic, the script of the people. From this, we see that the Rosetta Stone was written in 2 Egyptian scripts, and thus contains the secret key to hieroglyphic writing. The meanings of all the words inscribed on this stone are found in the Greek text. The first to attempt to decipher this stone was Sylvestre de Sacy in 1802, an Arabic scholar. His attempt focused on the demotic section, believing that this script was similar to the Arabic script, indicating a connection between them. However, his efforts, along with Wackerblad, were only successful in identifying Ptolemy's cartouche, since 1814. The Englishman Dr. Thomas Young has been attempting to decipher this language from hieroglyphic text. He knew from the efforts of his predecessors that royal names, such as Ptolemy, must be enclosed in cartouches. Therefore, he arranged the signs found in the cartouche as letters representing the word Ptolemy. He was able to identify the set of letters that make up the name Ptolemy, but he was unable to determine the exact phonetic letters that comprised this name. Therefore, when he tried to apply the alphabetical letters he had incorrectly deduced, he was unable to find any Coptic word with a similar pronunciation. At the same time that Dr. Thomas Young was working on this subject, there was a young man named Jean-François Champollion who was studying history at the University of Grenoble. He took it upon himself to decipher this language. From an early He had been fascinated by Egyptian history and had learned everything that had been left to us by our ancient ancestors, Young and Dr. Deciphering, about this language and the Coptic language as well. He learned from the works of Young that Greek proper names should be written in Egyptian letters, and on this basis, he built the foundation for his research, which had been progressing successfully since 1821. Champollion's first work in this regard was to examine the differences in ancient Egyptian writing. He demonstrated that hieratic writing is an abbreviation of hieroglyphic writing. Therefore, ancient Egyptian writing is a single script, but it is written in three forms, like Arabic, for example, Ruqay, Naskh, and Thuluth. Therefore, hieroglyphic writing, like demotic, must contain signs that have phonetic and alphabetic value. Asterisk on the other hand, when Champollion was calculating the hieroglyphic signs on the Rosetta Stone, he noticed that they were more numerous than the words of the corresponding Greek text. He therefore concluded that each hieroglyphic sign did not represent an idea or a word. Based on this, he began to investigate the cartouches of the Rosetta Stone again. In 1822, he received a copy of Champollion's Elephants, two new cartouches inscribed on a small obelisk. Champollion found the base of this obelisk bearing the inscription Ptolemy and Cleopatra in Greek. He demonstrated that the first of these cartouches was Ptolemy's, as it was exactly like the cartouche of the Rosetta Stone. The second should be read Cleopatra, as there were 5 letters in common in both names P, T, L, W, and Y. In fact, there are 5 similar signs, each in its logical place in both names. The in the name of the queen, it is the hieroglyphic S. On the other hand, we do not find a letter containing new signs, namely Q, A, and R, which are not found in King Ptolemy. In conclusion, since there are similar signs in these two names, and each expresses the same sound, they must be purely phonetic letters. Champollion spent weeks applying the alphabet he found to all the names of the Ptolemies and Caesars that were included in the book Description of Egypt, which was prepared by the French campaign. He arrived at a reading of 79 other new cartouches, during which he learned new alphabetical letters. Thus, he was able to compile a table of phonetic alphabetic letters. He confirmed this remarkable result in a letter he sent to Deciphering, the permanent secretary of the French Academy, on September 27, 1822, in which he announced that the hieroglyphic cartouches could be read. However, up to this point, he had only been able to read the names of Greek kings and Roman Caesars. How could he now decipher the writing of the Pharaonic era, which contained the same phonetic elements? However, in his speech, he declared his confidence that he would soon succeed in reading the cartouches of the pharaohs, just as he had read those of the Ptolemies and Caesars. Asterisk in fact, Champollion received a copy of cartouches from a temple older than the Greek temples. He recognized 2 curved signs at the end of one of the cartouches, each representing the last letter of Ptolemy's name found on the Rosetta Stone. He read them as S. At the beginning of the cartouche, we see the circular disc, which was used to symbolize the sun.